welcome to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show, NBA edition. Actually, the NBA and NCAA edition. And we've got some special guests on the show today. I'm going to bring out my son, Marcus Brown, who's joining us, I think, for the second time. Marcus, what's going on, bro?
Hey, what's up? How's everybody doing?
Good to see you. And we're also going to bring out another friend to the Maurice Brown Comedy Show, and I believe it's his second time as well, Cameron Robinson. What's up, Cam?
Hey, how you doing? How y'all doing?
Everything is going good. Both you guys, I know, Cameron, you are in Northern Virginia, and Marcus, you're in D.C. I'm in Austin, Texas. Things have been pretty good weather-wise, but not so much on the East Coast. What's the weather like today over there?
It was raining pretty hard today, actually. It's been raining pretty hard the last couple of days, probably since about Wednesday, surprisingly. What's today? Thursday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So it's been raining for a couple of days. So it's been a little erratic. Can't even lie.
There was talk of even tornadoes possibly popping up here and there along the East Coast. They did mention D.C., but most of it went up to Boston, all that snow and whatnot. So I'm glad to know you guys are okay. Let's just dive right in and just get into the NBA. I mean, we had some games on Wednesday night that have a lot, because we've got about 7-8 days before the playoffs, the play-in starts.
Yeah, about 5 or 6 more games left.
So everybody's trying to get pole position and get ready for that. And so there was some significant. All the games now down the stretch are significant. All of them, except unless you're Boston or Denver or the T-Wolves. Boston's just – I don't like the way Boston's playing right now. But Wednesday night we had the Portland Trail Blazers 89-86 over the Hornets. They're not going anywhere. They're already got their tickets for Cancun. The Lakers 125-120 over the Wizards. The Wizards have been really feisty lately. I mean, they haven't really been winning, but they've been balling. I think Jordan Poole dropped 29 in the loss to the Lakers. What's that, Marcus?
Oh, no, I was just agreeing with you.
Yeah, I think he had 29. He balled out, and the night before they had a big win. I mean, they're going to Cancun as well. And then we have the Atlanta Hawks 121-113. I think Malachi Flynn came off the bench for Detroit last night and bust 50.
50, yeah.
And that's kind of a trend this year where people are dropping 50s and 60s all over. I mean, people that we just don't really know anything about on any given night can drop 50 or 60, which I don't know what that's about. Cameron, you got a comment on that?
I mean, that just goes to show how good the guys are in the NBA. I know a lot of times people watch the game and watch the people on the end of the bench and like, oh, well, they're not that good. Why are they the NBA? But if they come to your local rec league, they're going to look like Michael Jordan out there. So that just goes to show. Yeah.
Good point. We had the Boston Celtics 135-100 over OKC. Now, I was surprised at this one. I expected this to be like a game. You got two really title contenders. I think you could consider OKC a title contender. So getting blown out. And here's the thing about Boston, and we'll talk about this a little bit more later on in the show. But when Boston's hitting their threes, they're practically unbeatable.
Yeah.
But the problem with Boston is it's feast or famine, because if those threes aren't dropping and it's like a top 5 team, they're in trouble. Yeah. They've got like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde quality to them, even though, I mean, they have a gaudy 60-20-something record right now. I mean, they are easily the best team in the NBA when you look at their record. But I'm going to tell you right now, sometimes I look at them and I'm like, you're not 100% sure, even though their record is so stout. They're just so up and down. However, last night, beating the Thunder down like this is an example of what I'm talking about. I mean, where they're on, I mean, they're awfully hard to beat. The problem is, can they be consistent throughout the playoffs? And like I said, we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on in the show. The Nets 115-111 over the Pacers. I think the Pacers have a chance to get into the play-in, so they're not totally done. They needed to win that one, though. The Grizzlies 111-101 over the Bucks. I don't like the way Milwaukee's playing going into the playoffs. Marcus, your thoughts about that?
Well, to be honest, I haven't really liked the way Milwaukee has played all season.
Yeah.
I do think they kind of had a little bit of an unfair game where they kind of got rid of their coach earlier in the year because they were winning. I mean, I guess it was more of a personality clash with some of the players and him more than anything. Then they bring in Doc Rivers, who, I mean, I guess it is what it is with Doc Rivers at this point. But I don't really know what to expect from the Bucks. I think the combination of Lillard and Giannis is taking a little bit more time to gel. I think they're just not sure where they want their chemistry to be at right now. But I still think they're a decent team. But the way they're playing, I don't think I can see them in the finals this year.
I don't see the Bucks getting to the finals, and quite frankly and honestly, I don't have them getting past the second round. I mean, they don't look good to me, and they've just not played like a championship team. And to your point about Doc, I'm looking at Doc, and I'm like, why did you take this job? You should have kept that cushy job at ESPN, all right, and making all that money, sitting there in the studio and just commentating and talking about everybody else's problems and whoever else is going to get fired. Because that job right there, it didn't make sense to me that Doc took this job, because Giannis Antetokounmpo, to me, I forget the prior coach that got fired. What was the coach's name before Doc got there?
Griffin, Adrian Griffin.
Yeah.
And I thought Antetokounmpo was disrespectful to Griffin. Like, you may not have liked the way he was coaching, but he is. There's a way to go about it, and there were. I just didn't like the way Giannis was acting, and I think that was a bad trade, getting rid of Drew Holiday and bringing in Dame Lillard. Yeah. Dame Lillard, to me, is an entertainer, but substantively, Drew Holiday's a better guard. I just be totally honest. He's a better pure point guard than Dame Lillard. Dame Lillard wants to sit out there in that 3-point line and fire from 35 feet away and do this. Hey, dude, that's great. That was a great shot. Can you play some defense? Anyway, I'm going to keep it moving. So the T-Wolves destroyed Toronto last night, 133-85. Anthony Edwards dropped 28 last night. The T-Wolves are a scary-looking team. I was talking about Denver. You're going to have to do some work to get the T-Wolves out of there.
For sure.
I'll be the Anthony Edwards and the T-Wolves. And is Big Cat back, Karl Anthony Towns? Is he back yet?
I'm not sure if he's back yet, but he's supposed to be coming back soon, right before playoffs.
Okay. Yeah. So they're going to be scary, because I do believe he will be back for the playoffs. Mm-hmm. The Magic looked good. They beat the Pelicans last night, 117-108. The kid from Duke, what's his name? Blanchero. Look, they're balling. And you look at the Pelicans, and guess what? Zion's hurt again. He's day to day. I'm like, when Zion is on the floor, the Pelicans are a problem. And I give him credit. He's pretty much made it through the year, and he's been a force. Mm-hmm. But, these nagging little injuries, man, I mean, you just wonder when it's going to stop. I mean, we got the playoffs, like I said, in a week and a half, 2 weeks. They're going to need him. If he's healthy, they will be a problem. And lastly, the Suns over the Cavaliers. I think Devin Booker dropped 40, and the night before that, he dropped 52. Phoenix is trying to avoid the play-in. Yeah. And I'll tell you right now, they're dangerous. I don't have Phoenix winning the title. I just don't see that happen. But they're going to be very difficult to eliminate. They're going to be very difficult to eliminate. Sure. And I think they're scary enough to where they could. I could see them in the finals. I don't think they're going to. There are too many good teams in the West, man. Yeah. West stacked.
It's loaded.
So with that being said, we're going to take a look at some of the NBA headlines, and I'm going to start out with this one, the LA Lakers, and I'll pose this question, Cameron, to you first. Are the Lakers a legitimate threat? They've been playing pretty good basketball lately. LeBron and AD, are they a legitimate threat to make a deep playoff run?
I believe so. I mean, we forget that the Lakers made it to the Western Conference Finals last year too. They just ran into the Denver Nuggets. So
Yeah,
the only thing that concerns me with the Lakers is that they don't have a bench. And if they run into a team that can go 7, 8 guys deep, they're going to be in trouble. But the thing is, they do have a LeBron James and an Anthony Davis. And all the Lakers love to do is keep every single game close until the fourth quarter. And they're going to let the big guys close the game out. They do it every single year. They did it last year. It's exactly how they went from the play-in tournament right to the Western Conference Finals. So if they run into a team like Denver Nuggets, possibly even the T-Wolves, they can probably get them. But everybody else, I feel like they can beat.
Marcus, your thoughts?
I agree. I do think they have the capability to make a deep playoff run. And like you said, they have guys like LeBron and AD there. And of course, it comes down to the availability of Anthony Davis if he can even stay healthy for them to make a deep playoff run. Something else I think it comes down to, I think an X factor for them has to be D'Angelo Russell. He's been playing surprisingly well since there was rumors of him getting traded or potentially being traded later on in the season. So he's essentially been that de facto third star for LeBron and AD whenever they can. You have Austin Reeves there as well, who can come on every now and then. But I do think D'Angelo Russell is that X factor. Like if he can play like a true point guard. And the only thing about the Lakers that I always tell people is that they're a good team, but they just don't have good defenders and they don't have a good bench. Like Cameron said, like they got Russell, Reeves, Dinwiddie. These are your guards pretty much that can come off the bench and like they're good for scoring, but they're just not great defenders at the end of the day. And then you have LeBron, who, granted, he's playing well. He's 39 years old at the end of the day, for real. I do think he can keep that up, but then sometimes that's why I said Anthony Davis is a big part of what happens down the stretch because LeBron even said it himself. This is supposed to be his team. And credit to LeBron for still averaging 24, 25 years old at his age, for real. But then attrition kind of, I think, has to play a part as you gear up for a deep playoff run where you got guys throwing different defenders at you and different things at you and things like that. But I do think they can make a run.
You know, it's interesting you mentioned LeBron. I saw another GOAT debate about LeBron and MJ. And for the first time, I kind of paid attention to the LeBron side. Not that I'm giving him an edge over Mike, because I still think he's the GOAT. But the one thing that caught my attention is, and you just mentioned this, Marcus, his durability at his age. Like the guy is in great shape at 39 years old. It just doesn't make any sense. I mean, to be able to play at the high level that he plays at his age is almost like you can't even really see him quitting anytime soon. Like that guy's not close to the end.
No.
They don't have a team. He's not playing with anybody. He's just got AD. You mentioned Austin Reeves. Austin Reeves is okay. He just needs to stop saying, I'm him. You're not him. Okay, Austin, calm down. And then all the other guys on that team, they don't have a lot of help. I think it's getting to the point where you want to hand the keys off to Anthony Davis. Maybe you can ride, his back going into the playoffs. But LeBron James is just in fantastic shape. And I don't think MJ was in that kind of shape at 39, 40 years old. I just don't think. I think Michael, I think they said the stat they threw out, scoring 40 points at the age of 40. Michael did it 3 times. He's done it more than anyone over the age of 40 or at the age of 40. And LeBron's done it twice. And I think you got 2 or 3 more 40 games in it, if not 5. Okay. LeBron James is just utterly amazing. And I think they can. I think they're getting ready to make a deep playoff run. I'm excited about what we're about to see here. Let's switch over to the Boston Celtics. And the main man and point man for Boston is Jason Tatum. And he's a fine player. He's a terrific player. But to me, there are moments he doesn't meet. Like, Jason, we really need you to be that dude, like right now. Tonight. This is your – and he doesn't show up. When those moments arrive, he's not there. I'm going to throw it over to you, Cameron. Is Jason Tatum the kind of leader the Celtics can lean on to win in big games?
Yeah, I think he is. I think he just has to get it in his mind that he is. I still think he believes that he's just another good player in the league. He needs to realize that he's probably one of the top 5 players in the league.
Yeah,
And it's like you said earlier with the Boston Celtics, they really live and die by that three ball. As
yeah,
all those good players that they have, they really do live and die by that three ball. And Jason Tatum needs to get in his mind that when the three ball isn't going, put your head down and go to the rim. You're going to get the calls because you are Jason Tatum.
yeah,
And I just think when things aren't going the Boston Celtics way, he kind of takes a step back and he looks at it as, okay, the team is playing bad instead of him taking that role, trying to dominate a game, even if your team's not playing well, trying to put your team on your back because that's what all the top players in the league do.
yeah,
Embiid, Jokic, LeBron James. If they lose, it's going to be on them. If they win, it's going to be on you. It just seems like he only takes the credibility when they are winning, instead of when it's supposed to be goes both ways.
yeah, yeah. I totally agree. Marcus, your thoughts?
Is Jason Tatum the kind of leader the Celtics can win on in big games? It's kind of a mixed bag of a question for me because there's a part of me I do think he can be that guy, but then there's a part of me where I think he can't. And the reason I say that is because I'm just thinking about the history of games that we've seen him in. We saw them in the finals a couple years ago, and
Yeah,
Tatum struggled a lot. Struggled
Mhm.
in about 3 or 4 of those games they played. The series against Miami last year in the Eastern Conference Finals, Jason Tatum came up kind of short in a few of those games as well. And this is not to say we haven't seen Tatum play well in big games as well. Like he's had a lot of 30-point games, 40-point games, and big playoff matchups as well. Um, I think Tatum kind of has this ego thing, kind of like what Cam was alluding to, where it's like, all right, shots aren't falling. It's like, well, the best solution for that is like to keep shooting. And he takes a lot of contested shots. They could even be considered bad shots. Granted, he makes a lot of them, but I think he settles for those a lot more
yeah,
than he should. And I think sometimes he doesn't realize like how big of a frame he has. Like
Right.
he's about 6'6", 6'7", 230 pounds, 240 pounds, something like that. Like he's a strong dude. Like he can get to the rim, but he
yeah,
settles for jumpers a lot, contested shots. Then sometimes he can be lackadaisical on defense. He doesn't give 100% effort every night. And then you've seen it in some games this year where like the Celtics have had a big lead, 20, 30-point leads, and they've blown them and they lost the game. And it's like, well,
Mhm.
this is not games that a supposed number one seed, a team with finals aspirations are supposed to be losing. Because we kind of judge you how you're going to play in the playoffs based on how you play in the regular season for real. So that's the only way we have to judge you off of. And if, from what we've seen, the sample size has kind of shown that the Celtics are kind of still leaning towards similar habits that they've had in past playoff series, where it feels like they're playing younger than what they are. Like you would think with the experience that Tatum and Jaylen Brown have accrued over the years, that they would make better decisions. Like there's things that they know they need to work on, and it feels like they are taking those steps, but then there feels like there's a what's the saying? One step forward, 3 steps back. So that's what
Yeah.
it feels like to me for the Celtics.
yeah. I would agree with you. I think the Celtics on paper are the best team by far in the league, and we just need more consistent play. And I think it comes down to Jason Tatum. He's even said out of his mouth that he believes he's the MVP. So that means you gotta back that up. And I think case in point, I think there's a game against Denver swept them this year, by the way.
Yeah,
And that there was just a moment where you felt like what's my man's name? Jaylen Brown was the one that bust 41 points in one of those losses in Boston. I think Jason only had like 16. You
yeah,
know,
Yeah.
so you got to show up if you're going to be that dude. Particularly if you're going to be a self-proclaimed that dude, you got to show up.
yeah,
And I agree with you. I think he's capable. I mean, I think he's more than capable. You just wonder
Yeah.
why he doesn't, assert himself more. He's got the playoffs to kind of, dismiss any doubts about him. Next headline is this the year for James Harden and Russell Westbrook to finally get a ring? Cameron.
Yeah. I'm not a firm believer in the Clippers, honestly. Well, first of all, we don't know if they're going to stay healthy enough. We don't know who's going to go out in the next couple weeks, go down. Um, and I just don't think they have enough. They have Kawhi, they have Paul George, they have Harden, they have Westbrook. They got a lot of good role guys, but
Yeah.
I still, for me, they're just too inconsistent. You know, there's times where they look great and they look like they're a championship contending team. But then there's times you look at them, they're like, well, like who's playing? Like, is James Harden out there? Is Kawhi out there? Is Paul George out there? Like, I don't know. I feel like they have too many stars on their team, and it's only one ball to go around. And they're not the same motivated defensive team that they have been in the last 2-3 years. So, and then also the West is just loaded. So I just don't know in a series if they can beat anybody, all the top teams in the West. I just don't believe. So this year for James Harden and Russell Westbrook, as much as I would love for them to get a ring, I just don't see it. Not this year.
Okay, fair enough. Marcus, your thoughts?
I agree as well. Like you said earlier, the West is super stacked. You got a lot of different teams that are kind of already above the Clippers. You got the Thunder, the Timberwolves, the Nuggets, potentially the Suns, maybe the Lakers even vying for a spot as well. The Clippers were actually playing pretty solid for a good stretch of the year when they first got James Harden, when I didn't think it was going to work out. I do agree with Cam. I just think they have too many ball dominant players on the roster. And then there's the issue of the availability. It's been the same issue for the Clippers the last 4 years or so, where all right, Paul George is here, but Kawhi's not here, and vice versa. Or Kawhi's here and Harden is here, but we just don't have all the pieces that we fully need. And realistically, I think if the Clippers have a healthy roster, I do think they actually have a legitimate shot to make a final run at the championship. It's just I just can't trust them to stay healthy for an entire playoff run, because I just know at some point Paul George is going to miss a playoff series, or Kawhi is going to be out for the year. Something's going to happen. It just happens too much. It's almost the same as the Chris Paul injury history was like, oh, we know Chris Paul is good, but he's going to get hurt at some point. So that's just kind of how I look at it with the Clippers.
Yep.
I've been waiting for Kawhi Leonard to show us what he showed us in Toronto's run to the championship. And it seems like just the same as Paul George, he's going to come up lame somewhere. Yeah. Can't finish. Last year, they were in a series. I think Denver knocked them out last year, and he couldn't finish the series. Yep. And they were in that series, and they didn't have Paul George. They were in that series. I mean, Kawhi was balling, and he couldn't finish. Injury. And this load management thing is just an issue with him. And to your point, Paul George, yes, I think Russell Westbrook deserves a title. As much as I hate to say it, even James Harden, you know, you may or may not like the way he goes about his professional business. He's a great player. And so I think they both deserve a ring. I would have no problem seeing them get one. But I don't know that this is the hey, get this. Not only do I not know that this is the year, I don't think it's going to be any year. I mean, if they can't get it done now, I think their window's closing out there in LA for the Clippers. Yeah. Their window's closing. And so I feel like this has got to be it if they're going to do it. To your aforementioned point, Marcus, they have the ability to get to the finals. The question is, will they be able to hold it together? Because they kind of self-destructed over the last 2 weeks or so. I mean, there was a point in the season. They're playing real bad. And I was thinking, you know, at a point in the season, like, oh, I think the Clippers are getting ready to make a real run, but they've fallen off a bit. Let's go to the next question. Miami Heat. Their playoff records. And they do it just about every year. Mm-hmm. Are the Miami Heat, Cameron, once again poised to wreck the NBA playoffs?
I wouldn't put it past them. I mean, we say this about them every year. They're probably in the same spot going into the playoffs every single year. And we always talk about Boston. We always talk about Milwaukee, 76ers. And now we're even talking about the Knicks. Yeah. But we always overlook the Heat. And the Heat are just one of those teams that nobody wants to play in a series. They play extremely hard every single night, every minute, every second, every inch of the floor. Bam Adebayo has proven to be a super all-star in this league. Jimmy Butler, we know what he does when it comes playoff times. They added Terry Rozier this year, who I thought was a great pickup during I think it was around the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. The only key that they're missing to me is Tyler Hero, and I wish he's healthy enough to finally play in a full playoff series from the start. But I still think they can do damage, especially in the East. Like the East is it's not the West, so I still think they're still a playoff wrecking team, and whoever sees them in the playoffs, they don't want to.
No, particularly the leprechaun people up there in Boston.
Yeah,
Marcus, your thoughts?
I do think that he can make some noise in the playoffs. I honestly don't think they can necessarily make the same run that they had last year. I think it'll be a little tough for them to recapture some of that same magic. And then, of course, it would have to come down to matchups as well, too. I do think they have a solid team around them. Like you said, they got Butler, Adebayo, Rozier. Maybe if Hero can come back, they could potentially do some damage. He could be a third scorer to go along there as well. I also don't think they have – actually, I think they have pretty solid depth. They can be a little inconsistent. Like they have Caleb Martin coming off the bench, Duncan Robinson, Haywood Highsmith. So, like, they have some decent pieces to at least contend in the playoffs. I just can't necessarily see them going as far as they went last year. I do think there are some more solid teams in the East. Not as much as in the West, but I do think there's some solid teams. Like you have the Pacers, you got the Celtics, you got the Knicks, even with the Knicks kind of at like 85% sort of. So I do think it'll be a lot more tougher for the Heat this year.
You know, and I feel the same way every season, and they shock me. Like, I don't believe they're doing this. I just don't believe they're doing this. Jimmy Butler has that intestinal fortitude that you don't see. You meet people like that in life every now and then where they just don't back down. There are people out there in life, and Jimmy Butler's one of those people. You know, and I doubt him all the time. I doubt Jimmy Butler all the time. And then I just end up going, wow, and you got to love him for it.
Yeah.
I mean, he just talk about what Jason Tatum doesn't do. He rises to the occasion.
Mm-hmm.
The only problem with Miami and Jimmy Butler, if you want to call it a problem, because they played so well, it's like they deserve a title. But by the time he gets to the finals, he's done. Physically, Jimmy Butler's so physically beaten up. By the time he gets to the finals, man, he literally can't do it anymore. You know what I mean? You can see that he's laboring and he's struggling to get through game after game. And I think they went 6 games with Did they go 6 with Denver last year?
They went 5.
They went 5 games. So he labored and whatnot. And there's just, at the end of the day, to your point, Marcus, I don't think they can get it done. But I think they can cause a lot of damage. You look at Milwaukee, the way they're playing right now. You look at the Philadelphia Sixers, and really, Joel Embiid's not 100%. He shouldn't even be out there as far as I'm concerned. They're vulnerable. And then who else is there? I mean, you get a team like Miami, and they could end up in the conference finals. The very team Boston does not want to see.
Yep.
Yep.
And I can tell you right now, if they meet up with Miami again and they don't win it, Mazzulla's gone. Joe Mazzulla's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can see.
But we'll see what happens. That's why I just love this time of year, because there's so much excitement in the NBA playoffs. I'm going to move on to our next NBA headline and talk about the Pelicans. And I mentioned Zion Williamson. Cameron, I'll pose this to you first. Is there a concern for New Orleans to make a home stretch? Because they're trying to avoid the play-in. Right now, I think they're at 6. Is there a concern that Zion is day-to-day with a sore finger right now coming down the home stretch?
I don't know the extent of his injury. I know it is day-to-day, but it's all really just going to depend on how he feels with that finger. If he feels like he can play, I feel like he can toughen it up and play through it. And I don't think it's going to be too much of a problem. But if it's going to be a problem to where the point like he can't maneuver like he usually does, I don't know if is it on his left hand?
I'm not sure.
And if it's on his left hand, well, he's all left. So if it poses that much of a problem to him, that's definitely going to hurt him, because they need Zion on that floor and they need him to produce like Zion Williamson. They don't need a half Zion Williamson because they're already without Brandon Ingram. So another superstar down that's just going to really hurt them in the long run. But they have a very solid team. But like I said, this is going to depend on how Zion, if he can play through it or not. But I believe, hopefully, since all the talk has been him always being injured, that he'll toughen it up and just play through this sore finger injury.
Marcus, your thoughts?
I don't think it's a major concern. Another point to Cameron is that Ingram's been out for I think about the last few weeks or so. And they definitely need his scoring ability as well. But I think the Pelicans are comfortable enough. I think they're like the 5th seed right now in the West, and with it about 5 or 6 games left, I think if there's no rush for Zion to come back, I say give him the treatment that he needs. Like, it's a sore finger. I don't think he'll keep him out for too long. But if they want to make sure he's healthy enough for the playoffs, I say just rest him for a little bit. There's about 5 or 6 more games left. I think the Pelicans are good enough to win a couple of those games to the point where they can at least stay in that 5th, 6th spot, at least to the point where they won't fall out or at least into the play-in. Because I think at worst case scenario, maybe they'll fall to the 6th spot. But I think the main concern is just avoiding that play-in. In terms of like once the playoffs start, I think Zion should be healthy. Ingram, that's another fact because that's another question mark that we just don't know about yet. Because if they have a healthy Brandon Ingram alongside with Zion, CJ McCollum and Herb Jones and Trey Murphy and everybody, I think they have a legitimate shot to contend as well.
You know, and the Pelicans have a lot of talent on that team, but I'm going to tell you right now, Zion is the guy that makes them go. Yeah. If they don't have Zion, they are, you know, almost a pedestrian team for whatever reason. And last night, without Zion, they lost to the Magic, although the Magic are a good team and holding down the 4th spot. I mean, with Zion, they win that game. I'll tell you that right now. With Zion, they win the game. So they need to be a little bit concerned because this has been the narrative over the last, ever since he's been in the league, you know, injury. And here we go at the most critical juncture of the season, and he's day to day. But again, you know, he's been in there for this. I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, this is the first full season I think he's played. Is that correct?
Yeah. This is the first season.
So there's reason for optimism there as they get ready for the playoffs. And even if I know they want to avoid the play-in, but if they have to go in there and he's healthy, they'll come out of there without a doubt. I mentioned the Lakers already. Let's move to another headline and talk about the MVP favorite. And I'm wondering if Luka Doncic is the MVP favorite. Your thoughts on that, Cameron?
Yeah, he's definitely one of them. I mean, I think he's averaging like 34 points, 9 rebounds, 10 assists. He has the Mavericks right now in the 4th or 5th spot in the West.
The Mavericks they're going to be in the 5 spot.
The 5 spot. So, yeah, I mean, he's just amazing to watch. I mean, the way he's able to just manipulate the game and just make everybody play at his pace. For the longest time, his whole career, he's been in the league. We're always saying how faster he needs to get, how he needs to speed up the game a little bit, but he makes everybody play his game. And to be 6'8", almost 230, 225, to be as smart as he is, to be as skilled as he is, and to control the game like he does, like, and to average what he's averaging, like, I think he's one of the clear favorites. And this Dallas team is another team that we're not talking about that's in the West that I'm pretty sure people don't want to play. They have Kyrie Irving, who's playing phenomenal this year. They've added Gafford, who's a pick, roll, lob threat, and he's a defensive anchor as well. He blocks a lot of shots. They got a lot of good role players that just come in and do their job. But Luka Doncic makes that he is that Mavericks team, and the way he's balling is just amazing. I don't see anybody who's really on his level other than Jokic. And then the only other player that I would say, if he can get his team back up to that first in the West, is Shai Gilgeous-Alexander.
Yes,
he's the only.
Absolutely.
I think it's between him and Luka at this point. But the way Luka is playing, I mean, he's definitely one of the favorites for sure.
He's so slow. I mean, he moves at a turtle's pace. You can't take a ball from him.
No.
And he can get any shot he wants by himself. He could get his own shot. And did you see that shot he made off the scoreboard the other day before the game started? I mean, he was just goofing around and threw the ball off the scoreboard and made the shot.
Yeah.
Then he went up to the 3-point line and he did an underhanded scoop shot from 3. And he was laughing about it. So I don't know. Marcus, your thoughts on Luka Doncic?
I definitely think he's one of the favorites for MVP. And in all honesty, if the Mavericks were at least the top 3 seed, I'd say he'd have it unanimously, to be honest.
Yeah.
And Luka's one of those players where he's putting up 50, 60, 70 points. And then, people were like, was anybody guarding him? It was like, there's no defense. Like, not necessarily. Like, I watched a good majority of the games. It's like, it's not that people aren't playing defense. Like, he's making a lot of tough shots. Granted, he will get some open shots every now and then, but he makes a lot of tough contested shots, same step back shots with the hand in his face, shooting over 7-footers, getting into the lane, like creating for his teammates. Like, and like you said, he's not the fastest guy in the world. A lot of things he does, it looks like he's moving in slow motion, but the game is so easy for him. Like, he can do a lot of things. He makes things so much easier for his teammates, which is why I think it's Kyrie Irving has been having success playing with him, because he's basically just another scorer. You have a lot of guys paying attention to Luka. Kyrie can create off of one-on-one matchups where he can be open on cuts, get wide open threes. So Luka makes the game easier for guys like him as well. And I definitely do agree with Cam's point that I do think SGA should be the favorite for MVP as well. To have his team in the West to average 30, I mean, the guy is literally a walking 30 piece. Like, I swear, every time I turn on the game, he's got at least 30 points every time. And to top it all off, he's only like 24, 25 years old. So he hasn't even really hit his prime yet. So to be averaging 30, to have your team in the West as the main guy, I definitely think he should get it. I guess you can make a case for Jokic as well, but I don't think they'll give him the MVP because they don't want to give it to him three times. So I got to give SGA the MVP this year for me personally.
I think all 3 are worthy of it. Jokic, Doncic, and Alexander. All 3 are worthy. I would have whoever they picked. But I just look at Doncic and I just think he's a poor man's Larry Bird. I mean, and when I say that, because he doesn't play any defense. Look, you're not gonna see Luka. You're not gonna see Luka D'ing anybody up.
Yeah.
Whereas that's Larry Bird did everything. Rebounds, defense, scoring from 3, and all those different things. But Luka Doncic is an absolutely amazing offensive player. Amazing offensive player. I'm going to switch over to the Golden State Warriors, and I'm going to ask the question, is it time to stick a fork in the Warriors, as in rebuild? Cameron, your thoughts?
It's about that time. Poor Steph Curry. I mean, he gives it out. He gives it his all every single night out there. Yeah. And they're solely in the position that they're in right now because of him. I don't know what's up with Draymond Green. I don't know why he can't just get his stuff together. I don't know if this is a cry to like, hey, trade me. But it just seems like he doesn't want to be there. And then Klay Thompson is just sadly steady declining. I mean, it's just injuries. And as much as I love him, I think right now the Golden State Warriors need to still use Klay and Draymond as their value as much as it's going to be. The more they stay, the longer they play, the older they get, it's just going to decrease. And they have some young guys that potentially they can build this team around as well and keep Steph Curry as well. But it's definitely right. They're definitely in the time to rebuild mode for sure.
I think the only person on that team that's untouchable is Steph Curry. Yeah. And on top of that, he's only got about 2 good seasons left. I mean, he's coming down the home stretch of his career. And people keep talking about Golden State making a run. Look, they're done. I mean, I just don't see anything left in their tank. Marcus, your thoughts?
I definitely do agree. It should be time to look at his rebuild. Like you said, you look at Steph Curry, and then you look at the main supporting guys around him. You got Steph Curry, who's 36, Klay Thompson, who's 34, I believe. Draymond was 34, and then you have Chris Paul, who's 37, 38, or something like that.
Chris Paul's at least 38.
He was like 38, yeah.
Yeah, 38. So you look, these are supposed to be like the main core pieces around Steph right now. Like you said, Klay's definitely falling off. Maybe I guess you could attribute it to the injury luck he's had over the last couple of years. So maybe that plays a part. But either way, it's still a decline. Draymond hasn't really been the same force and energy guy that they've been so reliant upon for the last 10 years or so. And like you said, you got to give credit to Steph Curry. He's 36 years old, still playing, ball averaging like 25, 26. So he can obviously still play. And then with the Warriors, I always do kind of wonder, like, with the whole Draymond and Jordan Poole situation, like if they handled that correctly and if that like led to some infighting or just turmoil within the organization with the teammates and different things like that. And then it also makes you wonder, like, did they make a mistake even trading Jordan Poole by choosing to stick with Draymond, just more so familiarity over future? Because granted, Jordan Poole, he can do some boneheaded things sometimes, but I think the kid's talented. I think he has a bright upside in terms of like how much of a playmaker he can be in the league. He just does dumb things sometimes. He's also relatively young. He's like 24, so I get it. It happens. Um, but with all the distractions that Draymond has been, like every time you turn on a Warriors game, it's always about Draymond. Like
Yeah.
Draymond in the face of a ref, like he's arguing with somebody else. Like, and you seen the other day when Steph kind of broke down. It was like, yo, I've kind of had it with this guy. Like he's always getting emotional. Like, and he said, like, yo, we need you on the court, not
Yeah.
in the locker room.
Right.
So you can kind of see that kind of taking frustration on Curry more than anything. And I think Curry is kind of in a mindset of like he knows a lot of changes need to be made, especially with players he's won championships with. It's not easy. I couldn't imagine it would be easy, but I think they're coming with the harsh reality that a lot of things need to be changed in the offseason, especially if they don't make any type of deep playoff run this year, which I don't think they'll do.
You know what? You said something very interesting, and I think it was the beginning of the end of the Golden State Warriors as we formerly knew them, and that's when Draymond slugged Jordan Poole, and it was on video, and that's when it was over for the Warriors because they've never had, beginning from Steve Kerr up, the courage to deal with him. You look at what happened this past season with Draymond Green and the dumb stuff he did.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at what happened when they did win a title with KD. He drove KD out of there. I mean, Kevin Durant would have stayed if not. Man, they'd have 5-6 championships.
Mm-hmm.
So Draymond Green has been at the center of this storm. And he's been there too long. And if I were the general manager after he decked Jordan Poole, I would, from a team standpoint, I would have suspended him for half the season. Because you can't do so. I mean, Jordan Poole's a heck of a player.
Yeah.
He destroyed that young man's mentality. And so I do think it's over for them. It's too late. They're all done now. I don't think anybody has anything left. So that is what it is. I'm going to go to the New York Knicks. Julius Randle today had season-ending surgery. And that leads me to my question. Are the Knicks now done with this surgery on Julius Randle? Cameron?
Yeah, they're done. They're done. As good as a team as they are still without him, as great of a player Brunson is, and as well as he's playing this year, they still need Julius Randle to make any type of push to make it to the finals or even the Eastern Conference Finals.
Yeah.
He's just that second guy, and they don't have that to beat the team like a 76ers or the Milwaukee Bucks or even the Boston Celtics. They're going to need Julius Randle. And without his production, without his toughness, without his leadership, this solely lies on the hands of Brunson. And I don't think he can do it all by himself.
So Brunson's going to need some help. There's no doubt. Marcus, your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they're done as well too. Julius Randle was supposed to be that kind of second X factor to go along with all the other pieces they had added in the trade deadline. They got Bogdanovich and Burks, two guys that, well, I think just Burks used to play for them, but two bench guys that were supposed to be solid. And they have a decent team around them. You got guys like Josh Hart, DiVincenzo, OG Anunoby, Achua. Like they have decent pieces, but they need that second scorer to take that load off of Brunson. Granted, Brunson has still been putting in work. Like he's still dropping 30 plus and all that. So shout out to Brunson. But it's funny because I thought even if Julius Randle was healthy, I kind of thought the Knicks still would have a little tough time because I think Julius Randle can be pretty inconsistent as a scorer as well. Don't get me wrong. I think he can
that's
score.
true.
but I do think he can be a little inconsistent as well. And I'm just going off how he played in the playoffs last year. He had some decent games, but he also had a lot of bad games as well. But even still, to not have him at all, to not have somebody who can help get you at least 20 plus, that's going to be tough. So now you're left with their second scorer is probably, I think, DiVincenzo, who's been having a good year actually, but he's not that second reliable scorer. Was like, all right, well, Brunson's out, like, or DiVincenzo, we need you to go get at least 25 plus at least to help carry the load. But I just don't see the Knicks doing enough to compete to make a strong playoff push.
I would agree. And last headline: is there any point in Joel Embiid returning this season, or does he offer a legitimate shot for Philly to win a title? Cameron.
I believe so. I mean,
Okay.
He's the reigning MVP, and I don't believe his production. I think the best thing that happened with the 76ers is his absence, because it's given Tyrese Maxey all-time confidence. It's giving Tobias Harris a little bit more confidence, and it's giving a lot of role players who probably getting way more minutes now since he's been out than he would have had if he was there, giving them more confidence. So when they're calling on them in playoff time, when Embiid has to come out and take his breathers, they're already ready to go. They're in full season mode. They're in full playoff mode. And then it's Joel Embiid. I mean, he's probably the most unstoppable player in the league right now before he got injured. And I don't think that's going to be any difference on his return. I think he's going to pick up right where he left off. It might take him a week or two to get back into his regular shape again. But, he's, like I said, he's the reigning MVP. I don't see a lot of people stopping him. I think the 76ers success, it's not going to be on him. It's going to be on everybody else around him.
So, Marcus, do you see any merit in Joel Embiid coming back, given the fact that he's not 100%?
Yeah, I do. I think he should come back. You could kind of see how the Sixers have missed him throughout the season, because before he got hurt, I think the Sixers were a top 3 team in the East, and now they've dropped all the way to 8th, I think. So basically, I think they're in the play-in territory right now.
They're in the play-in, yes.
Yeah, they're in the play-in territory right now. So, and honestly, I don't. Even if he does play, he won't be 100%. But I think a 80% Joel Embiid is better than no Joel Embiid, because at the end of the day, he's still a presence, and you need that body to kind of take attention away from other guys to help get other guys involved. Even if he's not going to drop 30 plus, like, he can still go out there and give you a solid 20-24. So where he doesn't have to do too much. And like you said, you have guys like Maxey, who's taken a big leap this year. And honestly, he probably might be in contention for most improved player. Or at least won't get it, but he'll be in contention for it. But he has good energy. He can score. He plays at a high level. He's a young guy as well. And if Embiid doesn't come back, I don't think the Sixers have a lot around them as well. Like, they have a Kyle Lowry who's way past his prime. He's about 37 years old. They have other guys like Buddy Hield, who was supposed to play well coming over in the trade, but he's played very inconsistent. You have a third scorer in Tobias Harris who can score, but sometimes when he's asked to be that second option, sometimes he's not always there when you need him to be. And then you have a guy like Kelly Oubre who can give you a solid 15 to 18 points a game. So I think having Joel Embiid out there would help everybody's confidence. It would help their offense run a little smoother. Even if Joel, if he's lugging around out there, there's always saying if you can play, you can play. And it's a playoff, so it's kind of at the point where it's like, you feel good enough to where, like, you can run out there for a good 30-35 minutes or around the court and go for it. If the doctors say it's okay, then let's do it for real. Like, we're trying to win the title. Like, even if we don't get to the title, we need to try at this point. Because who knows, if Embiid might get to a point where maybe he's kind of done with being with the 76ers. Like, there hasn't been enough around him, like, either trade me or get somebody else. And I think he's made threats of that before, especially after the Harden trade didn't work out how they thought it would. So I could see something like that potentially happening in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So let's great commentary. Let's move on to the trivia question segment of the show. And my question to both of you guys, this might be a little bit past your days, but the trivia question is, who has the most NBA MVPs of all time?
That's a tough one. I
don't know. Is it not Kareem?
Aha! There you go.
Okay.
Six.
Okay.
Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Okay,
Very
okay.
good, Camp.
Okay.
Very, very
I was
good.
gonna say like Russell or Will Chamberlain.
Yeah, that was probably my next guess. Either Will
Yeah.
or Russ. Yeah.
Oh man. So I'll give you a nugget and give you one more shot at this. Who's second?
Is it Bill Russell?
No.
Um,
Hmm.
I don't know.
I know it's got to be somebody from the 80s, 90s era, because I know nobody in the 2000s.
You're fishing.
Uh,
I'll give you that. Yeah, someone from the 80s, 90s era.
okay. Is it? Nah.
I don't know why I want to say Michael Jordan, but I don't think it's Michael Jordan.
Is that who you're going with?
Mike actually wouldn't be a bad guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he has 4. I don't know. I think somebody has 5. I'll just say Michael Jordan. If my guess.
You did it again.
Okay.
Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Very good, Cam.
Yeah, I would say because Mike can't be a bad guess because I wanted to say Larry Bird at first, but I was like, I think he only has 3.
Yeah.
Larry has 3. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Magic has, I don't know how many Magic Johnson has. I think he has 3. I want to say he has 4.
Mm-hmm.
But that being said, great guess. Cameron, good job. If I had a prize here for you, I'd mail it. But great answer. Kareem with 6 and Michael Jordan with 5. You know, the funny thing about Michael Jordan, looking at his 5, every year over his, 9, 10 seasons with Chicago, he was the MVP. I mean, and everyone in the league knew he's the MVP.
Yeah.
He's like the basketball version of Denzel Washington. Like every year he's up for an Oscar. He's the Oscar winner, but they didn't give it to him.
Right.
You know, they gave one to Casey Affleck and they gave one to Tom Hanks and, they gave one to Brad Pitt. And I don't think Brad Pitt's even been nominated for one. Anyway, it doesn't matter. So you look at this stuff and it's like, well, I would feel some kind of way if I just gave it to Mike every time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you throw some other people in the mix. But you're right. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, 6, a very dominant player. Well, guys, we're just about done here. And I had a bunch of other things I want to talk about. You guys are so knowledgeable about the NBA. I could talk forever. So I'm going to skip down to the NCAA Final Four. We've got, Purdue and North Carolina State on Saturday evening at 6:09 p.m. And then later on that night at 8:49 p.m., it's UConn versus Alabama. Do you guys care to make some predictions on this?
You want to go Marcus first?
Yeah, sure. I haven't even been able to watch the games as much as I have in the past, but I have been catching some highlights of Purdue. Purdue has kind of been shocking some people as of lately. I'm going to take Purdue over NC State, and I'm also going to take UConn over Alabama.
Okay. And thereby going with who to win it all?
I'm going to go with Purdue.
Oh,
my gosh. Interesting. Cameron, what you got?
For the Purdue NC State game, I think I'm going to pick Purdue. Edie looks like he's unstoppable. And then UConn, Alabama, I'm going to definitely pick UConn. To win it all, definitely UConn. The way they've been playing throughout the whole tournament, they look like a well-oiled machine. It's just honestly how they're going to stop Edie at that point. UConn definitely has the better team for sure.
I've got Purdue and UConn in the final as well, but I got UConn winning. I just don't think anybody can touch UConn. They're just sick. And again, it's a one-game tournament. Anybody can have a bad night. That's the beauty of the college basketball NCAA tournament. Just one bad night and you're out of there.
Yep.
But just looking at the stat sheet, I'm going to go with UConn. I think this kid Zach Edey is on a mission. They were embarrassed 2 years ago, getting knocked out in the first round. I think by was it a 16 seed or 15?
16. Yeah,
it was a 16 seed, and much like Virginia, I think the year before, losing to Fairfield. I don't know what team it was. It was a 16 seed. And then the next year, Virginia came back and won it all. to your point, Marcus, Purdue could very well do what Virginia did. I mean, the humiliation can drive you to a high level, and I wouldn't be shocked. Like I said, it only takes one bad night, and you're done. I would like to see that matchup between North Carolina State's DJ Burns and Zach Edey. Because the kids, there's no way in the world he should be doing what he's doing. I mean, he's an offensive tackle out there playing the center position and surprisingly holding his own. But I think the excitement in Saturdays, I can't see him dealing with Zach Edey. I just can't. Zach Edey, 7'4" tall, and it's been fun while it's lasted. So guys, we're going to get out of here on that. This has been a great show, and folks that's been listening to Bog Radio.fm, thanks for hanging out and watching the show, as well as RadioQDX.com out of Lucama, North Carolina, and WKCHF, check that, KCHF TV 11 out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. We're going to get out of here. You guys take care of yourselves. Enjoy the games coming up this weekend, and may the peace of Christ be with you guys and your families. God bless.
God bless. Thank you.